Happy Friday, all. Back here in Parable Corner to tell you the last of this final piece of the 13th chapter of Matthew in this parable. So this is 3 rapid-fire parables, a verse each, and it's cleverly titled in my text, at least here. And I just remind you again, those aren't biblical. Those were added by an editor 1,500-something years after the Bible was kind of collected and written, 1,200 years, most likely, after the Bible was written and collected. So those aren't gospel headings. That's why they're different in each Bible a little bit. But this one is aptly called 3 parables. So I'll read each one, and then there's a little piece at the end of it. The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field, which someone has found and hid. Then in his joy he goes and sells all he has and buys that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls. On finding one pearl of great value, he went and sold all that he had and bought it. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net that was thrown out to the sea and caught every fish of every kind. And when it was full, they drew it ashore and sat down and put the good fish into baskets and threw out the bad. So it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come and separate the evil from the righteous and throw them into the furnace of fire, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Again. And it goes on. Have you understood all this? And they answered, Yes. And he said to them, Therefore, every scribe who has been trained for the kingdom of heaven, like is the master of a household who brings out his treasure, what is new and what is old. When Jesus had finished these parables, he left that place. So these 3 rapid-fire parables, plus a little extra, gives you an idea of something a little bit different than what he's been talking about in this earlier. So he talks about good seeds. He talks about wheat and weed. He talks about yeast and mustard seeds. And this is treasure hidden in a field, a fine pearl, and good fish versus bad fish, right? Some of you're just like, oh, okay, I get it. I'm not sure I necessarily understand it, but here's where my brain goes every time I've read this and I read commentary on this. One way to look at this that makes the most sense to me, that ties into some of the other parables, which we'll look at probably next week, the week after, we'll see when we get to them. Jesus talks specifically in some of those about like the lost sheep, the lost coin, and things like this, right? One that matters is lost, and so you do everything to find the one that is there. So in this, the kingdom of heaven is like a field where a treasure's found, and he gives everything that he has to get that field. So everything is given to save and to take that one thing, right? Sound familiar? Second part, a merchant in search of fine pearls finds that one fine pearl, gets up rid of everything to get that one fine pearl. And then again, good fish and bad fish. It's not thrown out to just one set of fish. It's to all fish. And then the fish are sorted. In this way, like the seed, what is sown, is it worth giving up things for? Is that good wheat? Is the good seed? Is the treasure in a field, the pearl, the good fish? What is it worth? What is it worth for you? What is it worth in the kingdom of heaven or the kingdom of God? However you want to phrase it. What is it worth to you? What is it worth to God? Are you a fine treasure? Are you a fine pearl? Are you a good fish? Can't answer that. But the answer is that God throws out the net. God collects all the wheat and the weeds. God collects all the seed. And then we figure out what comes next. There's this great invitation in these 3 parables, but in the rest of the parables in this chapter of Matthew, that regardless of where you find yourself, that you are welcome in this. We have a saying in the United Church of Christ that is, no matter where you are in life's journey, you are welcome here. This idea that you might find yourself not being a treasure or being a bad fish or a weed, whatnot, and you may come to this place to come to worship with these people and find yourself turning into the good wheat, into that fine treasure or pearl, into that good fish or wheat. The beauty of these parables is there's not one answer, but in fact, you get to put your own spin. And that spin may change as you age and you become more mature or less mature, or more wise or less wise. The beauty is that these parables are for us to hear and to wrestle with, to keep growing into that relationship with the living Christ. Have a great weekend, folks. We'll see you soon.